I definitely had birthday parties there as like a 4 or 5 year old. And being back on in an 80s McDonald's with even the packaging was the same.
Mhm.
So specific, all of the details. It was like being in a time warp. So weird.
Loki might be my favorite of all of the Marvel television programs and ranks pretty high up in everything in the MCU for me, largely in part because of the journey it takes the characters on. I very much love character journeys. And while Loki, the character, is someone we've known for like more than a decade this time, and his journey is important, Sylvie's newer to this thing, but her journey is just so fascinating and so interesting. So I wanted to ask, how would you characterize Sylvie's journey in season two?
So in season two, she's in a very different place to series one. She finds herself in a calmer, stiller place where she's trying to live a normal human existence. She's trying to assimilate and make some connections with some other people and sort of trying on this what she thinks is a normal life after being on the run for so long. Yeah, and then that is placed under threat. So that's her new fight.
And that has to be really jarring for her because she's not really had an opportunity to have normal in her entire life, it feels like.
Yeah. And so all the anger from the first series comes back because she realizes that she can never have that. And it's I think the record shop scene is that in a nutshell. She's realizing that she can never be normal and she can never have this content happiness.
Mhm.
So she's mourning that, and that's why it's such a sad scene.
Absolutely. And that actually kind of brings me to this. One of the things that Loki as a character has told us from the moment that we met him is that he is burdened with glorious purpose, which as the season plays out, we kind of find out what that glorious purpose ends up being. What would you say that Sylvie, who is a Loki, but is 100% her own person, which is something that I think a lot of viewers love about that character, what would you say she is burdened with, at least at this point in her journey?
I think it might also be glorious purpose, as all Lokis are burdened with. She doesn't know what it is yet. I think there's definitely something unfinished about
Mhm.
Sylvie, and she is figuring out how to be happy and how to fight the good fight and how to make everything okay. Um, yeah.
How does Loki finding his purpose and the sacrifice that he makes, how do you feel that impacts her? Because we see at the end of the season, we see it ends almost in a hopeful note for something that is so sad. I'm not going to lie. I felt so conflicted watching both what Loki does and then that final moment, which looks so beautiful and hopeful, but it's so gut-wrenching. How do you as the performer feel like Sylvie is feeling in that moment, especially since she's still searching?
I think she's grateful and relieved that Loki has given them all a chance, and that they all have their free will restored. Obviously, the sacrifice is that she's lost Loki, so she's heartbroken in a way. But she knows that he's going to do what needs to be done. And then I think in the final moments, she. I feel like she's just going to keep an eye on the situation or something. Like she's going to keep an eye on him. Like they're tethered somehow. And she got the better end of the deal. So she's selfishly relieved.
Do you feel like his sacrifice changes her next step in her journey in any way?
Yes, I think it would. I think it does. Because Loki's not there.
Hmm.
And she probably thinks, is she ever going to see him again? I don't think that's something that she can escape, that feeling.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned the record store scene, and it's one of those things when I knew I was going to talk to you, I had to talk to you about and just ask in general, because that is honestly one of my favorite scenes in the whole season. It's just visually, it's very cool. The music choice is very cool. first I had to ask what it was like filming that scene, because the music, I mean, did you have any influence in the musical choices for that scene? Because it felt very natural and organic just watching you portray the character, and it just vibed so beautifully with the chaos going on around.
There was a lot of discussion about what songs should be used for that scene. Aaron and Justin had a lot of ideas right at the beginning. They didn't, in fact, none of which were used in the end. I had like a whole playlist that I made because we all had really strong ideas about what that song should be. As we were filming it, I asked if I could listen to Purple Rain by Prince, just because I think it's one of the best songs ever written, and I find it
100%.
unbelievably sad. So that helped me, get into the zone for that scene. And then, yeah, I think they just tried a lot of different songs in the edit and then figured out which one worked.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite scene from the season?
I really like the pie scene, the
Yes.
cafeteria scene where Loki and Sylvie have like their big standoff argument. We shot that scene super quickly at the end of the day, and nothing was on our side. Like there was always like a light in the way, or at one point I couldn't see Tom because there was a huge light in the way, and we were acting to like pieces of tape on a light, like super difficult scene to shoot, but it ended up being one of my favorites.
That sounds so cool. I know that pie scene admittedly made me want pie. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are like, I kind of want pie, but this is such a serious scene. I need a snack. It was just really, really cool. Now, I do have to ask because number one, I'm comicbook.com. I got to ask. And also because I'm a fan and I want to see more Sylvie. Do you know if or when we'll see more Sylvie in the MCU? And since I know Marvel does like their secrets and they can, you may not be able to say anything, where would you like to see her pop up if you had the ability to choose?
I do not know. I don't know anything. Honestly, like none of us know anything.
They do like their secrets, like to surprise everybody, including their talent.
Yeah. I don't know where I'd like to see her pop up. I'd definitely like to see her fighting more. I just like badass fighty Sylvie.
She is a badass. She really is a badass. And then I've got one last question, and this is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I read somewhere that you personally enjoy photography as a hobby.
Yes.
And that you had a little dark room situation going on. I am very much that person as well. I have a bathroom dark room. I've had one for a very long time. And it's such a fun hobby. It's creative, but I consider it to be a badass hobby. And it made me wonder, what hobbies do you think Sylvie would have developed in her time trying to be normal in Oklahoma in the 80s?
Oh, that's fun. Oh, maybe she tried like crochet or something.
Oh, that's a good 80s hobby too. I can see her just like aggressively trying to make something.
Yeah, I think she'd be really bad at it. Or like tie-dye. She probably tie-dyed a bunch of stuff. Yeah. Maybe she like started piercing her friends. I don't know.
A little side hustle.
Yeah, the stuff you do when you're like 17, 18, you've just gone to college and you're trying stuff out. Maybe pottery.
Ceramics was a thing back then.
Yeah, right. She would have no patience for any of it though, would she? She'd just end up smashing it against a wall.
She just got a pile of rejected crafts that she's tried somewhere. That's amazing. And it actually made me think of one last thing, and I can never get over this because Sylvie in her McDonald's uniform is just etched into my brain. It takes me back to my own childhood on some level. Has Sylvie's experience with McDonald's changed your relationship with McDonald's in any way?
Actually, being on set was a real nostalgia trip for me. I was born in '83 and I definitely had birthday parties there as like a 4 or 5-year-old. And being back in an '80s McDonald's with even the packaging was the same.
Mm-hmm.
So specific, all of the details. It was like being in a time warp. So weird. Yeah, it's weirdly nostalgic, but it feels like a whole different thing.
Yeah. I envy you a little bit of that because when I saw all that stuff, it took me back to my own childhood birthday parties at McDonald's. And I have a child myself, and he was like, that doesn't look like McDonald's. And I'm like, let me dig out some pictures for you, buddy. It was a very different time. Let me show you Hamburglar from way back in the day, and
Terrifying.
a photo of myself in like little hamburger chairs that they had back in the day, because
Yeah.
it's just such a nostalgic thing. And I was like, I've got to ask, how did that for you? Because it's such a specific experience.
Yeah, it really is. It was cool.
Very cool. Well, Sophia, thank you so much for your time today. And this was just a wonderful chat. But your performance as Sylvie is probably one of my favorite in the MCU. It's one of my favorite characters, and it's been a delight getting an opportunity to talk to you.